coats, jackets, raincoats, and other outerwear with a functional design. How do the masters make waterproof, light, and breathable modern clothing? Life story of an ambitious designer who moved to Ukraine and established her business here. In the conditions of a metropolis, even heavy rain is only a slight inconvenience. You will only have to stand in traffic jams, but most often you can walk back home under an umbrella or put on a raincoat and waterproof shoes in rainy weather. But if we were to go back 400 years, we would see that such clothing simply did not exist. In the 17th century, going into town in rainy weather meant risking your health to cold temperatures or in extreme cases dying of pneumonia. Of course, oiled and wax-treated cloth and also waterproof fabrics or cordovans have long been known, but this clothing could not be considered sensible and publicly available. The first lightweight, folding umbrellas were made at the beginning of the 18th century in Paris and were initially designed to protect people from the sun, but there was no multiple-purpose outerwear in case of rain until Scottish chemist Charles Mackintosh smudged jacket sleeves in a rubber solution. This is how the first raincoats, Mackintoshes, which were typical for the Victorian era, were introduced. Later, the technologies improved and waterproof outerwear was no longer the same and an open field for designers' fantasies. In the 21st century, when it seems that everything has already been invented and done, today this is a difficult sphere for creativity, but the difficulties inspire a modern master who works in Ukraine. I work as a designer and have my own clothing brand. In particular, this is outerwear. In winter, I make coats and parkas lined with artificial fur. In summer, I make raincoats and windbreakers. Dina Lubintsova not only designs new models, but she also coordinates a well-developed production process in 2 countries. A few years ago, she moved to Kiev from Moscow, and now she plans to relocate to Ukraine permanently. But why exactly here? I moved to Ukraine because there is freedom and inspiration, a lot of opportunities, and like-minded persons in different regions. How did a student linguist manage to succeed in becoming a fashion designer? What peculiarities should be taken into account when designing outerwear? And how can one determine that a jacket or a coat is of poor quality? But further, let's take first things first. Today, it is easy to lose an individual style among the plethora of outerwear. Cheap mass-market clothing is sewn according to the same patterns by changing only colors, single parts, and printings. You can find cloth of low quality even in the world of fashion. It is done so that a customer pays a second visit to a particular shop as soon as possible to buy new clothing. Maybe saving on textile materials is a benefit for everyone in terms of accessibility, but it is detrimental to the environment. Excessive use of synthetics and dyes is dangerous for human health. What should you do if you want high-quality outerwear of a classic cut with soothing colors and a cloth made of the most natural raw materials? I also worked in several shops that sell snowboards, and I couldn't find a suitable outerwear especially for snowboarding. As a rule, women's wear is pink or violet. Usually it is a slim fit and has a lot of decorative details. I do not like such a style of dress. And when it comes to menswear, for example, an XS size, it is too large for my body because the sleeves are long and the fit is completely different. At that time, Dina graduated from the Faculty of Philology of one of the leading Russian universities in Moscow. She could have made a career as a linguist or a teacher of the Russian language and literature, but in her last year at the university, the girl understood that handmade craft was closer to her heart. A mishap with a jacket for snowboarding motivated Dina to create something new, namely to sew outerwear on her own. The problem was she had neither education nor experience. A basic requirement of all classical higher educational institutions in sewing is to have a talent for drawing. Unfortunately, my drawing skills are very poor. I thought I would not be accepted to this university, and I had absolutely no desire to draw human heads and landscapes for 5 years. One day, Dina saw an advertisement about courses held by a British design school. The girl was promised that she would learn the things that were really necessary to start a clothing line. So Dina took a risk. At that time, she already knew what she would sew first. I decided to sew a parka. It took me the entire semester to complete this task, and my teacher helped me. Hardworking Dina succeeded in clothing production, and right after her first fashion show, it became clear that multi-purpose clothing designed by Lubensova became in vogue and was in great demand. The girl worked in Moscow for several years, and after that she decided to move to Kiev. How it is made. The technological breakthrough of Charles Mackintosh in the fashion industry, namely the invention of raincoat, was too late. The true discoverers of the properties of crude rubber are the Mayans and Aztecs. Unfortunately, the Europeans did not take note of the properties of rubber, though they noticed a so-called rubber tree. At first, they couldn't invent anything better than rubber material to erase the traces of a pencil. Hence, they were called erasers. Another thing is that rubber was an expensive export commodity, since rubber trees were grown only in South America and were forbidden to be exported from there. Only at the end of the 19th century, a British adventurer, Henry Wickham, exported 70,000 seeds from Brazil, of which only a few thousand survived. Nevertheless, the rubber tree spread to other tropical regions, and today the main suppliers of natural rubber are Malaysia and Indonesia. Dina Lubensova orders materials from Asia to make her clothing. This is multi-impregnated cotton. Usually raincoats are made of synthetic fabric, but I work with cotton. My main task is to combine natural fabric that breathes and makes a person feel more comfortable and clothing that does not get wet. And at the same time, I'm introducing technology there that is only possible for the application to cotton. This fabric is not made of 100% cotton, but mainly cotton is used. Only 31% of the composition is polyester, which makes it possible to better preserve the color from burnout and ensures the elasticity of clothing without traces of creasing. In creating new models, Dina is inspired mainly by Scandinavian design. As a rule, a new raincoat or a coat is created in collaboration with a professional clothing designer. This is with whom we're discussing a sketch, an outline, or any combined image that is to my preference. Then we print the patterns on a laser machine. The laser machine is the same one on which you can cut plywood. It cuts cardboard patterns following the computer sketches of the designer, which are translated into a special format. This is only the first approximation of the future project, from the idea to the hanger. At first, we sew the model from coarse calico. This is a special fabric for testing. In all cases, we take a person into consideration. My base is size 44 and a height of 1 meter and 70 centimeters. And we always look at this model from different sides. What we like, what we don't like, where we need to move stuff, if there's a shoulder or pocket not in place, a belt of such width or some other width. In short, there are very many different nuances. Each time Dina passes through this exhausting routine using her own manual labor. Only in this way the designer believes you can exclude flaws that will be very noticeable when you start the series. We make the first sample from the original fabric. It is already lined and has all the accoutrements, zippers and buttons. We're developing this sample and making as many samples as necessary until we achieve the desired result. To achieve the desired strength and water resistance, Dina uses a seam, which can usually be found on linen. It is not hard and completely hidden from the inside. Her raincoats are minimalistic not only for aesthetic reasons. We did the design with the draftsperson without a seam on the back and without a side seam in order to reduce the likelihood of it getting wet. The seam is only shoulder one and armhole one, where the sleeve is inserted. That's all. In all other respects, it is one whole piece. Even minimalism does not save you from annoying inaccuracies. It is very important to identify them at the prototype stage. We make sure that the side seam is precisely vertical and that the bottom is precisely horizontal. It depends on how the product fits. Very often this is noticeable, and if the balance is off, then the product may fall backwards when the neck starts to put uncomfortable pressure, or, on the contrary, it slips forward. Water resistance is such a strict parameter that is impossible to test on a mannequin in a sewing workshop. Dina's first production model, a raincoat that was inspired by 18th century fashion, was rigorously tested in the toughest conditions. I tested the first product that I designed in the shower. That is, I wore a gray-colored long-sleeve coat. I chose the color gray because drops of water and any moisture are best visible on a gray background. I climbed into the shower and in this way let the water pour down onto the hood over my body. Good Lord, I'm 36 years old. What am I doing? And I didn't get wet, and it was so waterproof that the next day the water ended up in the pockets. All the details of Dina Lubintsova's waterproof outerwear are made of stainless steel, so instead of dry cleaning the raincoats, you can wash them by hand or in a washing machine. Winter coats are made from the same material. They have a lining of sheep wool, which allows you to keep warm at temperatures up to -15 degrees Celsius. Every winter, I make long insulated oversized model coats. That is, they're loose, under which you can wear a thin puff, and then the coat will withstand not only -15 degrees Celsius, but even more dependent on its particular characteristics. In addition to that, there are two models of jackets and a fur coat made of synthetic fur. For Dina, it is a matter of principle that her clothing is not detrimental to the environment. It takes 3 months to develop such a collection and launch it into production in a normal, rational mode. Dina usually manages to do this in 1.5 months, as she says, without compromising its quality, but with an erratic load. The designer can advise a person as to what they should pay attention to when trying on a piece of clothing. If this is a coat, you can rub the fabric and see if it rolls off immediately or not. If it does not roll, then you can wear it for longer. Look at the waist height, at the lines, and at the seams. If there are pockets, what size are they? Where are they located? They're this way or that way. What will fit there? Will your mobile phone or tablet fit into the pocket? If it is on the side, I make sure that my hand and my mobile phone always fits in, so that it does not fall out of my pocket when I get into my car or a taxi. At the same time, the designer does not consider her clothing to be perfect and recommends not trusting manufacturers who present their products as a kind of ideal. The main task of Dina Lubintsova is to offer people who are tired of the excessive range of products in stores and outerwear, which will not set the general trendy style in a strictly defined framework, but will be integrated into just about any individual image that complements it. And the quality should be enough for many years of wear. Today, Dina Lubintsova's clothing is popular in Eastern Europe, in high demand in the US, and even in Australia. The designer admits that life in Ukraine opens up fantastic prospects for her that cannot be found anywhere else in the world. Now, here that is in Ukraine, there are more opportunities than anywhere else. There are still not so many designers, and I have more chances to be at the origins and try things that others have not done. And what I like about Ukraine in particular is that people are ready to share their knowledge, experience, contacts, and even contractors. This is also very important. This is a completely open form of communication. Not like this, but like this. And even at around all 360 degrees. Go ahead and create. All you need is to have the desire.